Good morning, traders, and welcome to this week's weekly market analysis class, Monday, the 30th of July. Before we get started, as always, please understand that any advice in today's session is of a general nature only and that your personal circumstances have not been taken into consideration. Okay, let's kick off, and there's a lot of news this week, so let's break it up a little bit. And first of all, let's concentrate on US dollar. The US dollar this particular week that's gone by has been in the news mainly with the trade wars and the currency manipulation accusations with China, and it's been going very strong US dollar, but towards the end of the week it's weakened a little bit and just having a little bit of a pause. This particular week is huge for the US dollar. The most important data that is coming out this week will be probably the FOMC statement, which I'm showing you just over here. That happens on Thursday at 4 o'clock in the morning. That look, the interest rates at this particular stage, it's a very 50-50. They don't really think there's going to be the rate, or there's a good rate increase, or there's a very good reason to increase. Numbers have been 50-50, so this one could go either way. It's been a while since it's been so close, so if it's so close, usually the market has not factored that decision into it as much as a heavily anticipated movement, so therefore there's a more potential for a greater volatility and movement on US dollar pairs. Also, of course, on Friday is the main one, which is traditionally the first Friday of the week of the month. It's non-farm payroll numbers, and the employment numbers are due out then. So let's see which one's going to overshadow the other one, but that's a huge amount of news for the US dollar this week. So take note of that. If we focus now on the pound, pound has been falling heavily for the last, say, 2 months. It did have a bit of a recovery week towards the front of last week, but then it's fallen straight back down again. And at the moment, this particular week is going to be key on data, but also what's been hovering over the GBP are the Brexit negotiations and the actual implementation of the actual exit itself, any fines that are going to be imposed, and the negotiations of who can trade with who thereafter. So this is what's weighing down the GBP of late. On top of that, it has been going through a period of not very favorable data, so consequently GBP has been on a downslide. Now this particular week we have the PMI numbers, the construction, manufacturing and services due out, but also we have their monetary policy statement. There's no expectation of a rate increase this particular one, although Governor Carney did say that we are getting closer towards having a reason to increase. What's going to be key here is the official votes. Let's see how the party votes in terms of how close they are towards moving on rates or not. So this particular week, GBP has another big week in terms of data itself. Turning our attention to the Japanese yen. The Japanese yen tomorrow has their policy rate statement. Of late, their monetary policies have been very, I guess, predictable, not conservative, but very monotonous and repetitive, so they haven't had major impact onto the market. So let's see what they say this particular week, but they too have their interest rate decision and their monetary policy statements due out this week. So that's the Japanese yen. Turn our attention locally to our own Aussie dollar. We only have 2 pieces of data this particular week, and that's our trade balance and our retail sales numbers, and that happens on Thursday and Friday respectively. Finally, the last major data that is due out this week is from Canada, where we have the GDP numbers on Tuesday, and also on Friday they'll have their trade balance numbers due. So there you have it. That's all that's happening in the terms of news. So let's now just jump straight in, and we'll kick off with our Aussie dollar, and let's have a look at that chart. Okay, looking at our Aussie dollar, we can clearly see that we are definitely in a downtrend from a long-term point of view. We can see that our highs are getting lower. Okay. When I focus closer to more recent activity, and let's zoom in a little bit, we can see that there's a lot of congestion in this region here. And look, I guess if I was looking for a short trade, I looked very closely at these two candles here. It was not an engulfing candle. The little green one is a little bit higher than the red one, so it was very close, but it wasn't quite what we were looking for. So I think for the the Aussie US dollar this particular week, what I'm focusing on is this area here, and I really want to see the market leave that congested zone before I would be looking at any type of trade. At the moment, there's no setups in any case, but it just appears that we are stuck in that range, and we just really want to leave it before we can start to look for the next set of trades. The nice trend has moved already, and it may well continue, but we need to break out of that in the downward direction to see a continuation before we start picking off highs and lows for ourselves. Okay, so that is our Aussie US dollar. Euro USD, and if we bring our chart forwards, let's take a look. Euro USD had that big fall, but what I can actually see right now, it's looking quite alright, is I can see a converging market in here. Let me just get some straighter lines and let's see if we can make something off this. There's definitely a nice triangle in there. Let me just get rid of this line, it's throwing me off, and zoom out a little bit. Okay, let me just show you typically when we get this type of pattern, the way that they work is that if the market comes down, gets congested in there, and then the highest probability trade is that it continues and breaks in a downward direction. So this is the type of trade that we would be looking for. It is a breakout type trade. Some people don't like the breakout trade. You have to have a little bit more, I guess, stomach for it. It doesn't feel as comfortable as a counter trend type trade. That's my personal psychological feelings towards them. But nevertheless, this is the most probable pattern when the market comes from high, congests, and then breaks in the continuation direction. But let's see, zoom in, and let's see what we've got. If I have enough room to pick a trade in here back into this direction, and when I say enough room, what I'm talking about is, let's say I get a candle set up like this, two candles there, and I have, if my stop is there, and I have enough room in terms of my targets before that my targets are still bound by that top line and not above it there, then I would be happy to take another type trade inwards. The one that would, if I was going to try and trade the breakout down, the way that I like to do it is, if the market came and met me here, gave me the price action to angle a trade into this direction, well, I would start the trade and then hang on to it, and hopefully it breaks through and then basically gives me a really nice entry, and I don't have to travel through the break as much as normally if I just traded a straight out break. But nevertheless, this is a really nice pattern, so I'm going to put it into my hot charts or my watch list, and if I see anything develop on this one, I'll make sure that everybody knows about it on the daily call. So that is our Euro USD. US Yen. Let's bring the chart forward. Definitely an uptrend. We can see that we are up, and actually there's something there right now. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Let me just get the high of this red candle. 243. It's inside. Okay, there is an inside candle set up right here. So the little red one is inside of the green one. That's a setup for us. So we can actually go ahead and place a pending order on this one. So let me just set everything up and I'll just come back 1 second. Okay, I've just zoomed in and brought over my mini terminal, and I actually want to execute this trade. Let me just measure 26 pips. I want to buy 26 pips above where we currently are, and then I want to place my stop at about 75. So I'm just going to hit the little yellow button. It is a buy stop, select in pips. I said 26, I think. Let me just measure again. Let's make it 28 pips ahead of where I am. Now I'm using the mini terminal because I'm going to auto size my trade to the risk level that I want. The lot size, I'm going to choose a fixed cash risk, and I'm going to just risk $100 on this particular trade. The stop loss, I said, it's going to be in pips, and I've chosen 75. And just to get started, my take profit, I will make this 150, which is twice my stop level. And here we go. I'm going to just place that, and it should be okay. And there it is. You can see from my chart that the green line, that's my entry. If we break the high, it will put me in long. There is my stop, and there is that's my T2. Okay, so then what you can actually do is you can set your uh, trade terminal to exit half the trade at T1 at some point, but I just put it in with T2, and then I'll exit out at T1 half of the trade if I want to. Okay, so that's up to yourself how you want to manage that. And if you look at my terminal here, it's automatically sized the trade at 0.11 to match the risk level of $100, which is what I've actually specified. Okay, so there you have it. That is our US yen. We've just placed a pending stop. Now don't forget, should you break the bottom side, so should this go down first and break that, then you've got to come back and cancel that order out, and it would be void from the market. Okay, so that is our US yen. GBP USD. Let's bring our chart forward. Okay, look at a quick glance. It looks like we are obviously still in downtrend. But one thing that I just want to point out, if we're marking out the highs, that high there went lower, but then the high went higher, and then it's gone lower. So I can see right now that there is an engulfing candle that has occurred on Thursday, I think it is. And the market looks like produced a doji. Let me just zoom in so everybody can see it a little bit better. And the market produced a doji there, but it didn't break. Well, it's still at that level and it's hovering. I believe that I put up there's a bit of a channel there as well. Now let me zoom in more so we can all see it a bit better. Now, from one side of the channel to the other side of the channel is 250 pips. So there's plenty of good trading space in there. And I like channels. Channels for me are a higher probability setup than any trend-based ones. So what I'm actually looking at is I actually want this to go up to here, and then from there, if it gives me the price action that I'm looking for, well then I'm ready to hit the trade down, and that will take care of the fact that that high and that this high was higher than that one, but the channel still is in this direction. Now, should it get to here and then break forward, well then that opens up the upside for the GBP USD. Now, given so much data is coming out this week, both for the GBP and the USD, this one's definitely going to move and it's going to be volatile. So let's see what happens, but that's our analysis for this week. There's nothing on right at this particular point, but that's our GBP for this week, GBP USD. Kiwi dollar, bringing charts forward here. Okay, there's two things I can see. This one's congesting also like the Aussie dollar. I can see there. However, this one's doing it slightly different. Let me zoom in and I'll show you. Oh, it actually looks better zoomed out. So if we look at it this way, it feels like I'm getting a little bit of a line going in the upward direction, but on the top it's a flatter type shape. Now this particular type of triangle, typically the way that these ones work is they'll congest, and then when they break right back down to this level here. That's typically the way that these particular ones work. Okay, so right now where we are, let's zoom in a little bit. Where we are right now, there's nothing really happening. Let me just go into a 4-hour chart, see if it looks any better on a 4-hour chart. Actually, on a 4-hour chart, it doesn't look as good because we've got the candles that fell outside. So I'll just stick to the daily. And look, let's just monitor and let's just see what happens over here. At the moment, there's no action on the Kiwi dollar, but that is our analysis for this particular week. USCAD, and looking at this particular chart, the first thing that I want to do is let me draw a line across here. Okay, I will draw a line there and I will keep it. There's 3 sets of inside candles right there, or at least 2, no, 3. There's definitely 3. So these right there. So let me just take a note that there are 3 inside candles. However, the question now remains is, has the trend broken? Look, this high is significantly lower. We also made a lower low as well. So kind of indicating that, are we perhaps doing this? So those candles there would have helped us for an up trade, but that's not the direction that we want to go, so therefore we don't do anything on that particular one. So what we'll do instead is let's just wait, see what happens at this line, because this is a significant line, and then hopefully we might get an attempt to bounce it up into this direction as well. So what I'll also do that can increase your probability over here is if you just draw yourself a set of parallel lines right there, okay? If we can somehow make this meet right here where it actually meets the parallel line and the support line, then this gives us a really good, even stronger possibility of a bounce. Okay, so make sure we mark that into our charts and just leave them highlighted as such. That is our US CAD for this week. WTI oil. Okay, what do we have here? Let me just zoom out a little bit. It was definitely on a good trend. The question now remains is what's going to happen next. The good thing is that we're getting a narrowing trading range. It could appear that we could spend some time in here. Okay, so that's not a known fact yet, but it looks like it could do a little bit of this, and then obviously we would then be looking for these types of trades. But where it stands right now at this particular moment, there is nothing on, so let's just leave this one alone for this week and just monitor its progress. So that's WTI oil for this week. Moving on to gold, and if we have a look at the chart, definitely downtrend, all one direction, and actually there is an engulfing candle there. I don't know if anybody may have taken this particular trade, but this is an engulfing candle signifying this. If anybody's interested in the engulfing candle is a little bit lower probability than the inside candle. It's a little bit more aggressive. But you'll be basically getting in at the same level where if you got it in on Friday as today, so you're not really missing out on much. I'll leave this one alone myself, But there you have it. The gold, there is an engulfing candle for a sell on that particular one. Let me just zoom out, just see if there's any danger ahead. Let me just mark this low out. How close are we? Okay, so this is, it's a little bit on the close side. If I zoom back in, there may not be too much room for this trade actually. So look, let's just leave this one. All right, so there's not enough room to cover T1. So let's just leave it and let's look to see if it does come down, if it can give us an opportunity to try and bounce it back into this direction. Okay, so that is gold for this week. Finally, the ASX 200, and let's look at the chart. Uptrend. Let me zoom out a little bit. I just want to see we are at new highs. It appears that the market is starting to run out of momentum in this area. There is no there's no official resistance there that we could try and trade in this direction, so that would just be a punt, so we're not going to do that. So look, what we need to do for this particular one is we just need it to move away from that area and start to give us a little bit of a swing somewhere, so we can mark in a new high or a new low and then start to draw out our next trade. Okay, so that's our ASX 200 for this week, the 30th of July. That wraps up our session for this week. Guys, live classes will be coming back. I am launching a platinum room, launching also a live trading room, live SMS alerts. It's unbelievable amount of resources that you'll be getting. It's not ready yet. I am working on it. So in the meantime, I am pre-recording these sessions to maximize my time until they'll be ready to launch. Don't worry, everybody will know about them. In the meantime, if you do have any questions, feel free to contact us. Follow me on Twitter at ChatFX. We trade setups and breaking news. Most importantly, hope you'll have a fantastic trading week. I'll speak to you next week on the weekly analysis class or on tomorrow morning on the daily call. Bye for now.